Welcome to the world of those who stayed, a place where I, a soul left behind, will tell you stories you were never meant to hear, forgotten houses, nameless graves, and places where you should never have walked. If you've ever felt a chill with no wind, if you've ever sensed eyes watching in the dark, you're not alone. So, subscribe. I have more stories to tell, and leave a comment. I read them all, even when you don't think I'm there now. Stay silent and listen.
The person in room 205. Some people die without ever finding peace. Some spirits don't seek justice. They only want someone to listen. And tonight, that someone is you. I don't remember the last time I felt cold. Atonian. Remember the feeling of my hand touching anything. Maybe it was the iron doorknob, the one that jammed tight and turned icy as I tried to open it, just before I was locked in. Since then, I've only stood here, watching, remembering, telling that this boarding house isn't big, not too old, not the kind of place people instantly think is haunted. It's just too quiet for someone hiding a scream, and too hollow for a ghost like me to exist without being noticed. They call it room 205, a room at the end of the hallway. No windows, facing an emergency stairwell that's always locked. Back then, it was where I lived, or more precisely, where I existed until I vanished. I was a college student, moved in because the rent was cheap, no deposit needed, and no one asked too many questions. The landlord was a woman in her 40s, pale skin, lips always dark, like someone frozen without blood. She didn't smile, didn't welcome me, just handed me the key and stared like she was counting down, like she knew I wouldn't be staying long. Room 205 smelled musty, not the usual damp smell, but the smell of something long hidden, slowly rotting in silence. I thought it was the pipes, but no, that smell didn't come from the bathroom. It came from behind the wall at the head of the bed. The first night I heard knocking, 3 knocks, slow, even coming from that very wall behind the bed. I turned on the light. No one there. No rats. No wind. Only my shadow on the ceiling, but distorted in a strange way. The second night, the knocking changed location. It wasn't from the wall anymore. It came from beneath my bed. I didn't dare look. Just pulled the blanket over my head like a child, hoping the noise would stop, and it did. But instead, something climbed onto the bed. Not cold, not heavy, but I could clearly feel someone lying beside me, breathing with me, silent with me, listening to my heart pounding like it might explode. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I decided to move out, packed in a rush, went to return the key, but the landlord stopped me. She looked at me, squinted, and said something I'll never forget. Not everyone gets chosen by that room. You sure you didn't leave something behind? I shivered, coaxed a smile, nodded, and walked away. But when I reached the first floor, I realized something. I had never told her which room I was in. I had never mentioned 205. Never. I came back for something, not a suitcase, not belongings, but the feeling that I was being called. Like that room still had something left to say. When stepped back into 205, the stench of blood was overwhelming. The floor was stained, looked like spilled coffee, but up close, it was clearly dried blood. I don't know why, but I walked to the headboard wall, hands shaking. I raised a finger and knocked 3 times, slowly. From the other side came knocking in return. 3 knocks, then 2, then 1, and then the wall began to crack. Asterisk, the sleep inside the wall when the knocking began. I knew I was no longer human. I was just a witness, locked behind a wall no one ever bothered to break. The first crack sounded faint, like a fingernail scratching across glass. But I knew it was an awakening. I wasn't outside the room anymore. I was inside the wall. I felt myself curled up, bent like someone had stuffed me into a space too tight. My head tilted, cheek pressed, too concrete, mouth open, but no scream. I had been silenced, with tape, with hands, with a curse no one cared to hear. There was no blood, no scream. My death happened in silence, as if I, too, had believed I deserved to disappear. I remember the hallway lights flickering, a hand shoving me into the wall, pressing me flat. No struggle, no fight, because I already knew who it was. He used to come to my room every Friday, brought food, taught me how to fix the faucet, sometimes left old books. I trusted him, thought of him as the only decent person in this whole place. But on that final night, I saw his real eyes. No warmth, no humanity, only something cold, soulless. I asked myself over and over, why me? What did I do wrong? Why didn't anyone hear me, even when I knocked 3 times? Then I understood. No one had ever truly seen me. I was the tenant who never signed a lease, the student with no family, the one no one greeted. I had lived as if I were dead long before I was killed after me. Room 205 never stayed empty for long. People came and went. Some just overnight, others lasted weeks. Each left something behind. A new scratch on the floor. A handprint on the fogged mirror. A scream in their sleep. I didn't harm them. I couldn't. I just watched, waited, and knocked 3 times, hoping someone would listen. Hoping someone would see me. One night, a girl came to rent the room. Young, lively, and carrying a film camera. She loved photographing forgotten things. Cracks in walls, broken bulbs, old gloves on railings. One night, she accidentally snapped a photo, and I was in it, in the bathroom mirror. She panicked, ran down to tell the landlord, and the next day, she was gone. The landlord said she left in the night. But her camera was still there, and I saw the woman smash it. The trash pit, out back. I wanted to scream, to shatter the wall, to crawl out, and say, I never chose to vanish. Tonight, I heard knocking again. Not mine, not his, but someone else's. 3 knocks, as if asking, is someone in there? I stayed silent, waited, and then I knew someone was digging. The knocks without. Asal Siyi, they call this place dormitory. No. 3, but to me, it's where I died. I don't remember what time I died. Only that after the final light faded from my eyes, all that remained was darkness. No pain, no tears, no one screaming in grief. Only the wall. It pressed on me. It held me down. Time passed. I couldn't count the nights or the number of living souls that came and left this room. Some stayed 3 months. Some left after just 1 night. Some went mad. Some stayed silent forever, eyes still wide open when they were found. Week 1, the new student, her name was Amelia, 2nd year biology major, wore glasses, light curls. Her laugh always felt oddly placed the moment she stepped into room 25. I knew she'd stay longer than the rest. Not because she was braver, but because she believed in science. People like that often soothe themselves with logic instead of fleeing on instinct. On the 3rd night, she heard the knocks. Knock, knock, 3 times. Even rhythm. Always at 3:07 a.m., Amelia stood up, turned on the light, checked the door, then chuckled to herself. Maybe it's the plumbing. It wasn't. It was me. I was calling on the 5th night. The knocks came from the opposite wall. Amelia placed her hand on a crack near the outlet, right where my body was wedged in. She froze, pressed her ear closer. No sound, just a coldness seeping through the bricks, straight into her bones. She backed away, pulled her hand back. Blood. Her handprint on the wall was blood. The next day, she reported it to dorm management. They sent an engineer. Nothing unusual. Probably rust from an old copper pipe. They repainted the wall, but that night, the knocks returned. Knock, knock, knock. This time, a soft moan followed. In the second week, Amelia began to dream. In the dream, she stood in a dark room. Someone lay face down on the floor, arms raised as if pleading. She bent down, tried to turn them over. It was me. My eyes rolled white, mouth open, as if trying to say what never got said. Amelia jolted awake, cold sweat. For the first time, she didn't smile. She began writing down her dreams, noted the time the knocks came, even described the feeling when walking past the freshly painted wall. She wrote, "Feels like someone is standing inside, watching me through the bricks." One night, with the nightlight on, she noticed a dent in the floor, like something heavy had once lain there. She measured it, almost the length of a human body. She shivered. For the first time, she whispered, "Did someone die here?" I wanted to answer. I really did scream, but all of it turned to wind in the air conditioner. Tuesday morning. Friend came, stayed one night. 3:07 a.m. She shot up in bed, face pale. Someone was watching me from under the bed. Amelia checked, found nothing, but by the next morning, her friend packed and moved out. Room 205, once again, had only one living soul. And me, I knew I didn't have much time left. If no one believed, if no one dug, if no one listened, I would remain buried, here not from hatred, not for revenge, but because I had seen. I knew who killed me. One night, Amelia placed her hand on the wall and asked if someone really is in there. Let me know for the first time. The knocking replied at once. Knock. Knock. Keon knows. Keon then. A thin crack spread across the wall. The ones who saw we once thought the greatest pain was dying without anyone knowing. But no, worse than that is when someone sees and chooses to turn away. They live. I die. But what truly separates us is silence. It started with dreams. After, the wall was broken into. The student named Evelyn, the one who touched a piece of my cloth, began having strange dreams. Nothing clear, just a feeling that someone was watching her sleep. A faint moan like the wind. A shadow flickering in the mirror as she washed her face at midnight. She told her roommate. They laughed. Said Evelyn had an overactive imagination, that architecture. Students hallucinate from lack of sleep, but Evelyn knew. Someone was trying to tell her something. The forgotten files one day. In the school's old library, Evelyn found a dormitory map from 1985. This building, at that time, was a temporary psychiatric facility used to house undocumented, nameless patients with no family. The facility was secret. After a vague lawsuit, it was converted into the dorm it is now. No medical records were saved. Only one handwritten sheet, the ink nearly faded, and on it, a name, Clara Jensen, female, 17 years old. Condition, nonverbal, resistant to touch. My name. It was me. Evelyn began leaving cameras in her room every night. She never caught anything clear, just static images, a long buzzing noise, and one moment where something seemed to pull her leg off the bed. Not hard, not painful, just a gentle tug, a cry for help. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat before the mirror, placed the old piece of cloth on the table, and said, "If you're Clara, I'm listening. Please show me. What happened to you?" For the first time in years, I felt someone wanted to hear me. I led her to the basement hallway. No one goes there after 10 p.m. Evelyn snuck down with a flashlight. The basement door creaked open, though no one had a key. Below, freezing and moldy, each footstep echoed as if we were walking into my own memories. We reached the last room, stained cement walls, a rusted iron bed still there, and handprint in dried blood. My blood, in a panic, belonged to an intern doctor back then, the only one who ever tried to protect me. He vanished without a trace. Evelyn told the dorm manager. The manager, an old staff member, turned pale, said nothing, just nodded quietly and told her, "If you're smart, don't dig any deeper." But Evelyn didn't stop. She sent the photos, maps, and notes to a small forum about abandoned psychiatric hospitals. They started investigating. 1 week later, Evelyn was relocated to a different room. The next week, her forum account disappeared. She began to panic, not because of me, but because someone was trying to silence her. Evelyn left the dorm. I couldn't follow her, but I knew she wouldn't stop. When the light came on in room 205 again, I was alone. They kept renting out the room, and the new tenants still laughed, still slept. No one saw me standing in the corner beside the desk, or sitting on their bed at night. They didn't see me, not because I hid, but because they didn't want to see. It's not the ghost that's frightening. See something wrong and choose to turn away as if we never saw it at all. Asterisk, the girl behind the dorm, still here, in this cold white room where every night my breathing echoes in silence. No one answers, no one remembers. But I know someone is coming back. The door to memory has opened, and this time, they won't be able to shut it again. 3 months after leaving the dorm, Evelyn returned. She didn't tell anyone, didn't notify the manager. She just appeared in front of room 205 at 3 a.m., carrying a wooden box and a stack of papers. Saw her. She saw me. No more fear. No more surprise. Just the eyes of someone who already knew the truth. She sat down on the cold tile floor, opened the box. Inside was an old recorder, a few hand-developed photos, and a leather notebook. In that notebook was everything she found about me. I am Clara Jensen, sent to this asylum in 1984 for inappropriate behavior, they said. I talked to myself, stared into space, and didn't follow female norms. I once told a nurse that a doctor touched me at midnight. The next day, I was transferred to the basement. No one asked. No one saved me. In the records, I was marked no family, needs special care. And finally, self-inflicted injuries led to death. But there was no suicide. I was strangled by the very man wearing the doctor's badge. Right on the bed, in that freezing cell, Evelyn found an old man named Arthur Kane, once an intern doctor at the asylum back then. He was the one who wrote those scribbled words. On the wall, Evelyn saw Arthur was fired after he spoke out. His wife died in an accident a few months later. His house was burned down. After that, he vanished from the state's medical records. But Evelyn found him living in a trailer on the outskirts of Ohio. No ID, no name. In the recording, he said, Clara wasn't crazy. I swear, she just asked questions. And sometimes, questions scare adults. He wept as he recalled being forced to sign that diagnosis confirmation in exchange for his own life. The night Evelyn read those words to me, rain fell white across the sky behind the window. She placed the recorder on the table, pressed play, and asked, Clara, if you're truly still here, do you want people to know who you were? I couldn't answer, couldn't write, but the room turned icy. The window flew open, the torn curtain flapping wildly, and the recorder turned off by itself. Never before had a yes been so clear. Evelyn sent the recording and documents to a small investigative journalist named Marcus Dorr, who once wrote about hidden bodies in an old reform school. At first, no one believed it. But when Marcus went to the dorm and saw with his own eyes the scratch marks in the basement cell, he decided to publish the entire story. It was shared millions of times. The university refused to comment. Former medical staff were exposed, and Building 205 was sealed off. They dug up a newly poured layer of concrete in the basement. Beneath it was a human skeleton with a strip of cloth tied around the wrist. It was me, the day they carried my remains away. Evelyn was there. She placed a notebook on the coffin. In it, the final line: "They know you once existed, Clara. Now, you can rest." But I can't, because this world has too many like you, still unseen. She turned away, walked off, didn't cry, because she knew tears don't change the past. Only truth can do that. I am Clara Jensen. I'm not angry anymore, not bitter. I just hope those who live won't be silenced the way I was. And if one night you hear a soft knock in the silence, please don't be afraid. I just want to ask, are you ready to face the truth? Or will you turn away like the others did? Ghosts don't haunt anyone. They simply stand there, waiting for someone brave enough to look them in the eye and not run. The last bathroom in the hall, the voice without a face, Part 1. The place without a mirror. If someone stands in front of the mirror long enough at midnight, they will see something that is not themselves. I used to be a person, had a face, had a name, had dreams. But now, I am just a thing standing behind you. Every time you look into a mirror when the lights flicker. And I have a reason to stay. Denver Hall University, a small art school in Vermont. The East Dormitory is the oldest building on campus, once a nursing home before it was renovated. 3 floors, 60 rooms, long hallways, dim yellow lights. Each floor has a shared bathroom, and only the last bathroom at the end of the 2nd floor. No one dares to enter, they say. Someone is still looking into the mirror there. Even though that room no longer has a mirror. Mara Levinson, once a sophomore in performing arts, disappeared in 2003. No body was ever found. Police ruled it as runaway. But I never left the dormitory. They forgot me fast. The first week, they still posted missing flyers. 2 months later, someone else moved into my old room, and the mirror in the last bathroom where I saw my face for the last time was removed. No one asked why. No one wondered where I went, but I'm still here. I remember every drip of water, every time the door opened by itself, and her empty gaze, the last one who spoke to me before I disappeared last week. A new girl moved in, Eliza. She's not like the others. She hears me calling, and she started looking into the mirror at night. The voice in the mirror. Some mirrors don't reflect your image. They reflect the truth. I still remember Eliza's first night. She carefully closed the door, laid her books on the desk, pinned up family photos, folded each shirt neatly, as if arranging her whole life again. Eliza is thoughtful, and she hears things no one else can. That night, when the hallway lights flickered, she passed by the last bathroom creak. The old door opened just a little dot. No one in the dorm used that bathroom anymore because the mirror had been removed after a student smashed it in panic and dropped out mid-semester. But Eliza stepped in. The bathroom was dim, damp, stained with age. Only one light bulb still worked, flickering like a dying heartbeat. Eliza stood in front of where the large mirror used to be. Nothing reflected, just a bare brick wall, cracked and peeling. And me, standing right behind her. She shivered slightly. I heard her gasp. Very soft, she reached out, touched the wall in front of her. Is someone there? I whispered. Yes, but you can't see us. Since that night, Eliza started hearing strange noises. At midnight, when the hallway was silent, she heard bare feet on cold tile, dripping water, even though the faucet was off. Someone whispering, "Day won't let me leave." Each time Eliza turned on the light, no one was there. But the next morning, she began writing in a journal. I dreamed of a girl, long hair, white shirt, standing in front of a mirror that no longer exists. She had no eyes, but I knew. She was looking at me. She asked to move rooms, but was denied because capacity was full. Each night, the voice came closer. I whispered her puzzle pieces. She did something to me in that bathroom. She doesn't want anyone to know. She's still here. Eliza began to investigate. She asked senior students. None remembered me. No one had ever heard the name Mara Levinson. Even in the school records, my name didn't exist. One evening, Eliza searched the drawer in the third-floor bathroom and found a decaying notebook. I remember it. It was mine. I had hidden it there because I didn't want her to know what I had written. Inside was the last line I ever wrote. Tonight, she told me to come with her to the last bathroom in the hall. If I don't come back, someone must know. She's not who they think she is. That night, Eliza saw me clearly. As she stood before the old wall, the mirror was still gone, but in the dim light, a faint reflection appeared. It was me. Thin, empty-eyed, hands stained with blood. I looked at her for the first time in 20 years, and I said clearly, ask her why she cut my throat. Sometimes, to erase someone, all it takes is silence and a black ink stamp in a file. Eliza stood frozen after seeing me in the non-existent reflection. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She just stepped back, breathing fast, then whispered, "Who are you?" I didn't answer, just stared at her, and blood began to seep from the wall where the mirror once was. The drops formed letters. Levinson, Mara, 3rd floor, 2004. The next day, Eliza went to the school library. She asked for the student records from 2004. The old librarian looked down, searched the list, flipped a few pages, then shook her head. There's no one by that name. Maybe you wrote it wrong. But Eliza knew there was no mistake. Someone had erased it on purpose in a forgotten corner of campus. There's an old office once used by Sylvia, the former dorm supervisor, now retired. Eliza found a way to contact her, using an old phone number still taped behind the door. Sylvia hesitated, but after hearing the name Mara Levinson, her voice shook. Why do you know that name? No one has mentioned that girl in nearly 20 years.
Amara?
She said Mara was a first-year student, smart, quiet, had conflicts with a professor named Lindsay Keir, who oversaw the student mental health program. I remember that day. Mara vanished after her final meeting with Ms. Lindsay. No investigation, no police report. Just days later, her records gone. Eliza returned to the dorm. She began searching through yearbooks, graduation photos, old student pictures in the 1st floor hallway. Not a single one showed me, but she noticed something. A group photo from 2004 with a strange gap between 2 students. A narrow, empty space, like someone had once stood there, but it was blurred out. Eliza took a picture and scanned it. In the digital version, using contrast enhancement, a faint shape appeared. It was me dot, standing in the crowd. No one looked at me. No one smiled at me, as if I had never existed. One night, Eliza followed a strange noise to the old laundry room in the basement. Now locked, she broke the rusty padlock and stepped into the damp, dark room. In the corner was a dusty sack, stitched shut with black thread. She opened it and found a red hoodie, rotted with time dot. Inside the pocket was a crumpled note, handwritten. If I don't come back, don't trust her. I think Ms. Lindsay is using drugs to do something to the new students. That night, Eliza was showering in the 3rd floor bathroom, not the one at the end. As water flowed past her ears, she heard a whisper, "Eliza, you have to bring me back. I don't belong in that floor. I was drowned, not by myself." Eliza looked up. The mirror in front suddenly showed a face soaked in blood. Not hers, mine. Now Eliza is sure. I am real. My story was hidden. Someone, likely Ms. Lindsay, staged a perfect erasure. But silence is over now, because Eliza just found an old keycard fallen inside my hoodie, away into the records. Room that no one has entered since 2004. Reflections behind the locked door. To know the truth, you must dare to open the door everyone avoids. In the middle of the night, Eliza returned to the old academic building, where the third floor held a records room, sealed since 2004. She used the key card she found in Mara's jacket. A green light blinked. The door unlocked. No one was in the hallway. No cameras. Only the pounding of her heartbeat and the sharp clicks of a lock broken after nearly 20 years. The room was dim. The smell of rotting paper and rusty metal hit her nose. On the shelves were hundreds of dust-covered folders, all marked by year, from 1995 to 2020. But 2004 had nothing. Eliza moved to the back of the room, where a 3-layered metal cabinet stood. On top, a faded sign read, "Temporary Archive, Materials Awaiting Destruction." She used the small key tucked inside her card pouch, and the cabinet creaked open. The documents inside weren't normal student records. They were mental health observation reports for on-campus students, with Mara Levinson's name in the middle. The final page in the file read, September 17th, 2004. Mara showing signs of paranoia, refusing cooperation. Short-term isolation recommended. September 18th, 2004. Did not return. Reported missing. File transfer unnecessary, as subject is no longer enrolled. Signed, L. Keir. Next to it was a handwritten note. She knows too much. Got access to meds from storage. If this leaks, the entire trial program will shut down. We must act. Last room mirror has been sealed, stable for now. As Eliza read the line, last room mirror has been sealed, the light snapped. Off. The room plunged into darkness, and then I appeared behind her. Not through a mirror. No reflection needed. I stood close, whispered, "You want to know what happened that night? I'll show you." The room vanished. Eliza found herself in the very last bathroom, but 20 years earlier. Yellow bulbs, steam, dripping water. She saw me, Mara, curled in a corner, trembling, shirt torn, clutching a spilled bottle of pills. Then the door creaked open. Miss Lindsay walked in, face hard as steel. "Give that bottle back." I shook my head. She lunged, shoved me into the running tub. I struggled, begged. She held my head down, then taped the mirror shut from the outside. No one heard my screams. Eliza, jolted awake, back in the present. She was lying on the floor of the records room, blood dripping from her nose. In her hand was a copy of the old file. The paper stained right where the word "missing" appeared. A knock echoed through the door. Someone stood outside. A guard, not a student. It was Ms. Lindsay Keir, Eliza held her breath, hiding beneath the desk. Through the door crack, she saw Lindsay's silhouette, silver hair, cane in hand. "You've dug up too much. You weren't supposed to know her name." Eliza clutched the file, teeth clenched, waiting for her to leave. The door wasn't locked. Eliza was trapped in the room with the one who killed Mara. The file in her hand was the only proof. The back door wouldn't open. No one knew she was here, but this time I wouldn't let her be silenced like I was. I was here, standing right behind Lindsay, and this time the blood would fall. From the one who spilled it first, the one who returned. From the reflection, I was once someone no one remembered. Now, I am the voice no one dares forget. Miss Lindsay Keir stood in the middle of the records room, gripping her wooden cane. Eliza was cornered, blood dripping onto the paper. The file had been torn from her hands, tossed into the fireplace. Flames rose. The pages of evidence began to vanish. "You should have left the moment you stepped in," Lindsay hissed. "That girl harmed herself. I just covered it up too. Protect the school's name. Who would believe a lunatic?" Eliza said nothing. She stared straight into Lindsay's face and saw a crack in her eyes. Something waiting to spill, dripping, then flowing. From the wall behind Lindsay, water began to flood in. Cold air swept through. A sharp chlorine scent filled the air. Whispers echoed. Lindsay's face turned pale. "No, you can't. You were gone." She turned. Mara stood in the water, hair soaked, eyes hollow black. I didn't speak. I only stared. Eliza screamed. She drowned her. She sealed the mirror. She killed Mara to cover up illegal drug trials. Lindsay gasped. Her cane fell. She threatened to go to the cops. I had no choice. "You did. You could have chosen not to kill," Eliza shouted. Lindsay backed up, slammed into the wall. Water gushed out from the mirror. No longer sealed. I stepped through the glass, the first time I could break. Free. Lindsay collapsed, trying to crawl away. But the water had filled over half the room. My voice echoed, real. This time, the living may forget, but reflections never do. Anyone who ever saw me in the mirror must see themselves again. Lindsay sobbed, begged. I didn't reply. I simply placed my hand on her face and showed her the moment she drowned me. That twisted grin, that satisfied glare, the guilt, never washed away. Lindsay screamed and fell silent the next morning. Eliza was found in the records room beside Lindsay's body, and a copy of the file printed from the autoscan machine in maintenance, evidence of the illegal drug trials of Maris' death, and the falsified missing report, all released to the public. The university was investigated. Multiple faculty members were arrested. 3 weeks later, a small memorial was held on campus beneath a newly placed headstone, Mara Levinson. 1986 to 2004 no longer reflected, but still true. Eliza placed a shard of broken mirror on the stone. No reflection showed, only sunlight and peace. I was once someone no one saw. A name erased from files, mirrors, and memory. But she, Eliza, never gave up, and because of that, I was finally able to leave. No longer a whisper in the dark, but a person, finally recognized as someone who once lived.